Welcome back to Exotic Car Playplace, everybody. It's Mark here again. Less things to smile about today. I'm really kind of bummed out because on my way home today from work, my wonderful 335 here decided to do not one thing, but two things almost within 5 minutes of each other. So I'm driving along and everything seemed normal, listening to music, everything's trucking along. I start driving along and all of a sudden I hit the throttle and it's flat and there's no power. And then I let off and it's still driving. But then I push into it hard throttle and it's sort of flat. So there's no power, no boost, and the revs are revving up very, very slowly. And so I'm struggling with the whole idea of what's going on. It didn't really spit out a code at first. So I was driving along for a while and then all of a sudden I kept trying this and it would surge and it would give me a little power and then it would cut off and flatten out completely and it would come and go and come and go. And I knew there was something not right here. So I don't know if we're talking about a wastegate issue or turbos or just fueling or something. I'm not sure what the issue is with the car. But shortly after that, I did get an engine light. And I actually got the really big engine light that stands in the front of the dash. It's sort of the half and half engine code. So I think that's a reduced power light on these cars. Now, I do have JB4 on the car. I wasn't running it. It was in bypass at the time. But it spit out that code, that big engine light, so the reduced power light. And I don't know again why this happened, what happened. So anyway, enough about that. I move along, I get home and I smell antifreeze. So I lift up the hood and then I find antifreeze all over. I found antifreeze all over around the wheel well. I've actually cleaned it up since. I sprayed it down with water. But let's lift this up and I'll show you where I saw the antifreeze. Found antifreeze kind of scattered around here, little splatterings and whatnot. But I saw lots of antifreeze all over here. There's antifreeze kind of up around the top, antifreeze on here, antifreeze here. It was all over the place. I've since sprayed, of course, so it looks a lot cleaner now. But there's antifreeze coating all over this side of the engine and a lot of it even up top here. Now, some guys are saying that it could just be this reservoir, it could be the lid, it could be any number of things like that. But either way, it doesn't make me feel very nice, considering we just had the engine issue or the power delivery issue. And I don't know if that was wastegate related, turbo, fueling, air, whatever it was, it sort of came in and out and it was surging. And so that coupled with the coolant leak, now I've really got a bummer on my hands. So I don't even know what to make out of this. So the first thing I'm going to try to do is top up the antifreeze. I'm going to do a quick inspection on the cap. And I'm going to try to run the car again. Let's take a look and see. I'm going to warm it up and see if I can see anything obvious for leaks. Now that I've got it cleaned up, it might be easier to do a quick inspection. If I see antifreeze starting to bubble out somewhere, it might become more obvious. So let's get this topped up and take a look and see if there's anything more obvious. So I've topped it up now. I got the antifreeze topped right up. We're going to give it another start and then we're going to watch in the engine compartment and see if I can see anything weird, maybe some leakage somewhere, something going on. So let's take a look at this now. So far everything's quiet in here other than the engine exhaust note. But let's take a look and we'll take it for a drive again and see if we can see anything obvious. So after a short drive, we still have the power delivery issue. I don't know what the heck is going on there, but we did notice something on the coolant. Now you can see there's a trail here that's leading all the way up the road, or from the road. I just drove in here. And so I don't know if it's painfully obvious, but I see something right here. We see, it looks like possibly the lid from the antifreeze reservoir here. We've got a bunch of coolant here that's around the edge. I look around, I already wiped a little bit of it up, but we've got some pouring out the back there. And then we've got some off the front. That definitely looks like it's related to the, possibly to the cap, the seal, or maybe even the tank itself. Kind of hard to say for sure without, there's no obvious cracks, but it looks like it's coming out from around the rim, so to speak. So after a tough night of trying to figure out what to do next, two problems with my car. So today what I ended up doing was deciding to tackle one problem at a time, one being the antifreeze leak, and it apparently looked like it was coming from the top. So I decided to buy a new tank. Everybody says that these are a problem, whether it's the actual lid, like this, or whether it's the tank itself, that they crack or they split or they just develop little fissures. So I got a new tank. So first thing is first, I'm going to try to take the old tank out, get the new tank in, and then we're going to fill it up and see what happens. Go from there. And then we'll deal with the running issues and the boost issues or whatever the heck is going on there. Okay, so the first thing, I've got the new tank, I've transferred the clips over. What we're gonna do is the first thing, the reversal. So let's put the electrical connector on here first. There, snaps in there nice. That's in there. This here is actually just a holder that goes down into this grommet and this bushing here, and that just holds this down. So we're gonna turn this, undo the wires, it's got a little twist in it. Then what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect up the hose down here. This is the bottom hose on the tank. Now it's got a key to it, so it's got to fit just the right way. There. Snap that in, close that up. And that should be locked into place. Okay, we did that. Got the electrical connector over there. And now we're gonna slide this down in that little grommet. And now we're basically gonna screw these down here. Use a 10mm socket right here, 10 mil. Put that to a 3/8 ratchet. We can even spin these in by hand slightly first, right here. Put this right there. Spin that one in by hand a little bit. Put the other one in by hand. And we're gonna snug them down. 10mm. Don't need construction torque. This is not a critical engine part. This is just a container. It's made of plastic. You don't want to over torque it. Just give it a nice little snug. Then what we have is our vacuum lines for the turbos. We got to make sure we get that sorted out properly here. So this one was the first one in. I'm going to snap that one down, snap this down. Those are the first ones in. The other one that I removed will be on the outside diameter there, the outside of the radius. Anyway, that'll snap right in. Boom. Now push that down and it's locked. So we got to make sure we plug the vacuum line back onto the bottom here. I just got this out of the way. It makes it easier to work on. This is going to go to the wastegate. Back in. I'm going to mount this. Put the nut back on to the fixed bolt onto this bracket. And this is a 13mm socket. 13 mil. As opposed to the 10 mils over here holding up the expansion tank. I don't need construction torque. That should suffice just nice. Then what we have to do is we want to get this vacuum line back into these little holders. Slide this into there. And then over here. And now everything's back as it should be. Now it's time to fill it up. Okay, so I know we lost quite a bit. I don't have a full jug here, but this is the stuff that's rated for BMW and amongst many other brands. So we're gonna start filling this up and see if we get the telltale to come up. All right, so we filled this up and we're gonna let the car run and circulate because we lost a bunch of antifreeze when we dumped it. So I've got the car running. I'm gonna try to let it get up to temp here a little bit. And hopefully some of the air works its way out of the system. We're gonna try that, put the cap on, we're gonna road test it, and we're gonna see if we fix the leak. So let's take a look at this. For driving, it was still surging and I couldn't get power, and I put the gas on and it was basically surging in and out. I couldn't get any power. And I thought I bled the system, but the car was still running like crap. And so I took it for a drive and then it was still oozing antifreeze. Once the car got up to temp, it was oozing antifreeze. And then what ended up really happening was I got those lights, the infamous lights on the dashboard. They looked like a thermometer. It went basically an orange thermometer, and then I got the red thermometer. And then basically the car was running like crap. I could barely drive it up the driveway. So then I did a little research. I kind of did a little checking around, and the engine was starting to overheat internally. So then after getting those yellow and red lights of death on the dashboard, what I decided to do was I brought the car home, and that's when everything started going sideways. So after doing a little troubleshooting, talking to my mechanic, I ended up looking underneath and found there was antifreeze coming out, not from the expansion tank, but I had dumped antifreeze again after I just topped it up, new tank. There was no issue at the top end. Turns out the issue was down below. So the way it evolved was I ended up getting a code. I borrowed my mechanic's scan tool, we plugged it in, and it spit out that there was an electric water pump failure. That's right, guys, an N54 with a water pump issue. I know you guys have never heard of that one before, but anyway, that's what the problem was by the looks of it. So I ordered the parts. I ended up ordering a water pump. I got a new thermostat. But then I ordered some other parts, and I figured, you know what, while we're in there, we're going to do some work on the car. We might as well do some maintenance, get it looked at, get the thing tidy, fixed up, and ready for a roll. So I'll walk you through some of the things I did and some of the pitfalls that I had along the way. So come with me, guys. I'll show you some of the things that I did to the car here over the last couple of days. And now the car is finally driving again, but I'll show you because the car could not drive and it was dumping antifreeze. So I'll show you some of the things I did. Let's go. Okay, so basically what I did, so I did the oil filter. I added oil. It's got fresh oil filter, and a drain plug ring at the bottom of the engine. I did all that work. By the way, this takes approximately 6.8 quarts of oil. I put in about 6.5, but it gets me in that range. So about 6.5 liters of oil is what I put in there. I have done this, so I upgraded this. Now that I look back, I don't think this was ever a problem, but I have a new tank and cover anyway, so I have that. That's all done, new oil. This here, not just the oil filter, but there's a seam right here. Oh, right there, there's a line right there. You notice the seam. And I was always leaking a little bit of antifreeze down in here. You couldn't really see it a lot of times, but around this edge here, there was at the bottom, I always had a little bit of crusty from leftover residual from the antifreeze. And then I noticed there's always like splash and yellow residue. And then there was also, you'd look down there and you'd see kind of residue and splash around from antifreeze that was just getting sort of splashed in there. Well, it turns out there's a gasket in here, and it was bad. It wasn't in good shape. So I ordered that gasket. I did that previous because I've been meaning to try to get that because I know this has been leaking for a bit. So I also did this yesterday. So I basically split these apart. There's 2 bolts here, 1, 2, and there's a third Torx underneath. There's actually 3 holding this housing half on. Then you don't have to undo this, but you've got these 2 lines here, these oil lines. They're bolted on the underside of this housing. So there's a bolt that you have to get from underneath, and then it drops these 2 lines down. Now be careful, there's lots of oil that seems to come out of these lines, so make sure you use lots of rags. But I basically dumped these lines, undid these 3 bolts that are 1, 2, and 3 at the bottom of this, pulled that off, and then there's a new rubberized gasket that fits back in there. I cleaned it up with a razor blade lightly, give it a nice polish with some Varsol, and put it all back together. And now look, I've been driving the car a little bit and it's all good. Seal is, it no longer is that seal a problem. So I fixed that O-ring because that's a common failure point. These areas always leak somewhere or another.